Hello, this is Edith Newmeyer, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. I want to talk about the mark of the beast today, a little more in detail. And I know I have talked about that in connection with this false pandemic. And you know why I say false pandemic. It's not because I don't believe that there's a coronavirus. Simply because I think people have overdone it. Okay, our politicians have predicted the wrong things. And yeah, we can say they were false prophets. Remember in Revelation 13, the beast out of the earth is also called the false prophet. And you wonder why he was, or he is, called the false prophet. It's not because he is a religious leader necessarily, because the beast out of the earth is a political system. Now you have to understand that. If you study Daniel chapter 7, you have to do that. Study it. Then you understand that a beast is always a political system. Sorry. See, even I sometimes get confused. But I know for sure because Daniel was telling us. Daniel was telling us clearly in chapter 7 of Daniel that the beast, a beast, is a political system. It's a kingdom. It's an empire. It's not even a kingdom. It's an empire. So it is more than one kingdom. So it's always political. For instance, the first beast was the Babylonian Empire. The second beast was the Persian Empire. The third beast was the Greek Empire. The fourth beast was the Roman Empire. And that empire never died, that Roman Empire, because it was very different than the rest of the empires or the beasts that came out of the sea in Daniel 7. So that last beast had 10 horns, and that made it different. That means that beast continued to exist in those 10 horns. And of course, you know, there was a little horn in the middle, which really wasn't smaller. It was actually larger. It was just called little horn. Why? Because that little horn was the smallest, really the smallest kingdom. It was a small kingdom, but the power was exceedingly great. Matter of fact, the power was so great that it dominated the rest of the kingdoms. Now, who are those kingdoms? Those kingdoms are the European kingdoms. Now, so many times we're hearing these false prophets. Okay, now they're really false religious prophets, or maybe they're more teachers, because the prophecy is there, but they're absolutely messing up this prophecy that we have in the Bible because they're not reading it, because they're in the business of confusing people. And people just follow it, and they just blabber things and don't even look. So a beast is always a political system, always. It just isn't different. So when we now go to Revelation and look at the beast there in Revelation 13, it's the same principle. You always have to apply this principle that a beast is an empire. Okay, it's not even just a kingdom. The horns, the 10 horns on this fourth beast in Daniel 7 are kingdoms. Okay, but it does not mean it's just one ruler. A kingdom always is made up of many, 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 many rulers. So is each of those kingdoms, these horns. So you have the 10 horns, which are the European kingdoms, which seem to be gone right now. And the last kingdom really in Europe that fell, which was really called an empire, because it had an emperor, was the German Empire. With the emperor. Then there was the Austrian Empire, and they all fell. And then there was another empire, which was the Tsar, and he fell as well. And they all kind of fell around the same time, which was around the First World War. And so after that, all the empires, all the horns were kind of destroyed. But the horn in the middle, the little horn, which is actually larger, continued. But now that little horn did not have anybody to rule anymore, or to use as, to use, like for instance, as a military power. Because see, this little horn, which is papacy, which is the smallest kingdom in Europe, but had all the dominion over every kingdom in Europe. But eventually, these kingdoms turned against the Pope, and he could not control them anymore. So he decided he is going to start a new kingdom. And I said that in my last video. So he decided to start a new kingdom, which is the beast out of the earth, which is also the New World Order. Remember, beast is always kingdom. So now, when we go to Revelation 13, we read about these two beasts again. Because remember, John wrote it, okay? And John said in Revelation 1, verse 1, he says, what will happen soon? This is what he is writing down. The vision he saw was of things that would happen soon. So from the time of John, or soon after, these things in Revelation started to unfold. First, of course, you know the 7 churches, which I believe are symbolic for the 7 church kind of periods. Each church is a different period during this 2,000 years of the Gentiles. I don't want to use the word church age, because dispensationalism is using that word, and I really don't like it because they associate the wrong things with church age. It is really, Jesus used the word the time of the Gentiles, and he used that in, I believe, Luke 21 and Mark. He used the time of the Gentiles. So the 2,000 years from the time that the Jews rejected Messiah, which was around the time, I think, when Stephen was stoned, all the way to the rapture, when Jesus returns for his bride. That is the time, it's called the time of the Gentiles. And that time is divided into periods. And I believe each church that is mentioned in the first part of Revelation is such a church period. That each church stands for a period of time. And you can learn what kinds of things each church period went through. Okay? So when we're going to the last one, it would be Laodicea, and that's the church that we're in today, lukewarm church. But I'm just telling you that so you understand that John prophesied, or John's prophecy started almost soon after John's time, when he saw the visions. And so then when we go all the way to chapter 13, and again, remember, Revelation is not chronological. Many times these different sections or different visions that John had, they overlap. Okay, so they're not one thing after another, they're chronological. So then when we go to the Revelation 13 and we see this beast out of the sea, we know that this beast out of the sea already existed during the time of John. There's no doubt. Because see, John many times uses language from Old Testament prophets. Many times he uses almost word by word. He is using the language of the Old Testament prophets. And so here, this beast out of the sea is this last political system, the Roman Empire, that we saw in Daniel 7. And so John picked that up as well. Okay, so here's the beast out of the sea in Revelation 13, again seen by John. And this beast again has what? It has 10 horns. It also has, I think, the 7 heads. So I'm not going to go into the 7 heads, I believe. Yeah, 7 heads. It had 10 horns and 7 heads. I'm not going to go into the 7 heads right now. I'm just going to go on in the 10 horns. Because, see, Daniel didn't see the 7 heads. He only saw the 10 horns. And so since we're seeing these again in John, that's what we're going to talk about. So it has the 10 horns, and the 10 horns during John's time, they were not in existence. They were still future. But the beast was in existence because the beast was the 4th beast. So again, what is a beast? The beast is a political system. I call it political system because that's what it is. It's political. It's a world power. It's an empire, the Roman Empire. And the horns, we know that those are kingdoms. We know that from Daniel 7. They are kingdoms. And those 10 kingdoms, they did not come into existence until after the fall of the pagan empire. What we learn in school, the Rome fell. Out of that Rome actually came those 10 horns, or those 10 European kingdoms. And the little horn in the middle, which was actually larger and more powerful, who reigned them all. But the whole thing, of course, is the beast, right? I mean, the 10 horns, the beast, and with the 7 heads, and the little horn on top. Now, John, at that point, with the vision, does not see the little horn in the middle. Okay? Why? I don't know. Now, people could say, oh, they're not the same beast. Yeah, it is the same beast. It says beast out of the sea. And beast is always a political power. So when we look at our history, we know that this is the last beast that John is seeing. So again, beast is a political power. Now, the little horn is not necessarily a political power. It's a small political power, which is the Vatican. Okay, the Vatican is that beast. And Vatican took over reigning and controlling that beast from the beginning. And that's why it's very hard to distinguish between the beast and the horns, because it's all the same thing. So when we see, John sees now what's reigning the beast in Revelation 17, which is Babylon the Great. Now, Babylon the Great is a whore. It's a woman, it's a whore, it's the false church, which is the Roman Catholic Church, which is papacy. And that is sitting on the beast, and it's reigning it. We can see that then in Revelation 17. But in Revelation 13, we just kind of see the beast. But see, the beast and the whore is the same. The beast and the little horn is the same. So it's one and the same, and so it looks like it is the very same thing. But we have to understand that beast is really the political system. So people worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. And they also worshipped the beast and asked, who is like the beast? Who can wage war with it? Okay, so the beast is one thing. It is also the political system. And the dragon, who is the dragon? The dragon is Satan. Satan, and I said that in my last video, Satan gives the beast the power. Satan gives the beast the power. Satan gives every political system the power. Again, watch my last video, because I say, I'll tell you very clearly in that video that Satan is ruling this world. He is the prince of this world. And so he gives every kingdom in this world power. You have to understand that. Okay? So it says here, the beast saw, the dragon gave the beast the power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have had a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. The whole world was filled with wonder and followed the beast. People worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. Now, do the people know that they worship the dragon? Do they know that they worship Lucifer? Of course not. They worship power. They worship money. Okay? So it continues in verse 5. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words, blasphemies, and to exercise its authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name and his dwelling place and those who lived in heaven. It was given power to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. It was given authority over every tribe, people, language, nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all those whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. Now, understand, we see that later on in 17, that this beast is one. So the beast system is really the political system. But later on we see it is controlled by the whore on top. But the whore on top needs the political system to do the dirty work. I'll give you one example. When they had the Inquisition, that Inquisition came from the Pope. The Pope was pushing it. Okay? And you know what the Inquisition is? When they killed all true believers during the Middle Ages, before 1500, before that Reformation. All believers were killed. There was not one believer left. They all had to flee and hide someplace in the mountains. Now, the Roman Catholic Church did not enforce the Inquisition. It was the political powers that enforced the Inquisition, and they made war with the saints. So that's why it's very important to understand this system, because it is so complicated. Because lots of people, are very confused about it, and they don't get it right the way it is. Because they don't see when they look at this beast 13, they think it's papacy. They think that the beast is like a religious system, but it's not. It is really the political system, but the whore on top is the one who's pushing the ideas and who is also telling this beast what to do. So the beast is then doing the dirty work for the whore on top, or for the little horn on top, which is the same thing. So really the people are also killed by this beast system, which eventually these horns, okay, it was the horns that really had the power. They eventually didn't want to do the dirty work of papacy anymore, or the dirty work, even of the dragon. So that's why they created, or papacy, or the dragon, whoever is, who's on top. I showed the dollar bill and the all-seeing eye in my last video. That, whoever's on top is making the rules. So that's why this beast, really you need to see the beast as the political system first. So then when they created the beast out of the earth, which is really the New World Order, it started with the United States. And then the United States becoming the empire, right? The world empire, the beast out of the earth, and taking over of the world, because that's exactly what happened. And I know it's hard for us to understand that, or even to accept that, because we cannot accept that our country, the United States, is really this beast out of the earth. So that's what then happened. Now when we go to the beast out of the earth, which is in verse 11, then we see that the second beast bows down to the first beast. Okay, so you need to think about what is the trademark of this first beast, of this European world empire. One of the horns always had world dominion, but altogether they had dominion over the whole world. What was their power? What did they do? Their money, their trade. That's what you're going to be looking at. That is what makes the beast, the European beast, who took over the world. Okay, really what it was is it was capitalism from the beginning. Even though it had a kingdom, it was trade, it was making money, it was wealth, it was power. That was the beast. And the beast out of the earth took over that same kind of stuff. Why? Because it was also controlled by the little horn, the whore, and of course dragon. So same thing, because this beast bowed down to the first beast. We see that. Then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth, and had two horns like a lamb. That means it's peaceful. What is the United States doing? It's peaceful. We're bringing democracy. But it spoke like a dragon. Okay? It's not so peaceful. It brings war, destruction. It brings control and power and dominance. So that's what the United States, or this world empire that we're having right now, New World Order, is what's ruling right now the world. And we can see that. because of this pandemic, and I'm not going to use the word for it, but because of this pandemic, we can see that very clearly. Go back to Amazing Polly again. Amazing Polly has been really showing who is really in charge in this world. Well, actually, she's not going far enough, but she goes pretty far, so you can see how everything is connected and that it's going beyond, of course, the United States. It's a world now, that the whole thing is a world dominion, what we're having. In this beast out of the earth, again, beast is political system. So it's the empire, the world empire that we're having right now. Think who's the world empire. It's only the United States in connection with the New World Order. Because of the, it says, okay, it exercised all authority of the first beast on its behalf, okay, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast. Now you're thinking, worship, that means upholding it. It does not mean like a religious. It doesn't have to be religious. It doesn't mean the first beast is a god. It means you bow down to the first beast. You acknowledge the same thing that the first beast was for, like power, control, money system, exploiting. These are all things that the second beast is bowing down to. And he's using the very same thing. Exploitation, okay? Using money and power. That's what the system is all about. And that's what the second beast is bowing down to. It doesn't necessarily have to be worshiping as in God, worshiping God. Okay? It just means you're bowing down. So, because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. Deceive. What is happening today? Today, we are in the middle of this great deception that is just starting right now. Absolute. I should not say that. We have been in great deception for a long time. We just have not noticed it. Why? Because things were just wonderful. Okay? We all had our freedom. We all had the things that we liked, we enjoyed. And all of a sudden, these things are being taken away from us. And now we're seeing really the deception that is going on. So, because of the sign, he was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. Okay, remember, the first beast is they're one and the same, but the first beast is the beast out of the sea, okay, which is the European countries. And they are part of this beast as well. They're part of NATO, so they're part of it too. It deceived inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. Now, what is this image that they're going to make? Now, there's two things, okay? This is the first thing that's going to happen. See, people sometimes connect the first and the second, because the next one is what? The next one is the mark. You cannot buy and sell the mark. But the first one is the image. Now, that has not happened. But what is the image? You should know what the image is. The image is a picture. Okay? And he gives this beast out of the earth, gives the image the ability to talk, which we have what? We right now have motion pictures. I'm talking, I'm a This is my image, and my image is talking. So right now we already have that ability that we can talk, and eventually that may be part of this whole system as well. But the second thing that will happen is it also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they would not be able to buy and sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. Now here, these are two things. They don't need to be in connection with each other. Okay? They're two things. The first thing is the image, that they have to bow down to the image. The second thing is the mark. And that is what I want to, really focus on. I wanted to focus on today a little more. That these two things are in reality two different or most likely are two different things. They're not together. Okay? So there could be a time when they force people to bow down or worship or agree with. Again, here's the worship. What does that worship mean? You bow down, you agree with, you go along with whatever that image is. And then there's also going to be a mark. A mark through which they are going to control you. And that is something that we may have very, very soon. Now, it's important to say again that this mark will not, I believe, will not happen until the wrath of God. Because when we look at Revelation 16, we see actually this mark coming up for the first time, or that something is mentioned about this mark. Beside in Revelation 13, it's mentioned during the wrath. See, this is when that mark is mentioned the first time in Revelation 13. Then the second time, and we don't see it anywhere else. Okay? I don't know of any other place. But then we see it in Revelation 16. We see when it is really appearing. Okay? When we're looking at a timeline, and when we're looking, okay, when will it happen on this timeline? If we see Revelation timeline, and we have to say, when will this happen? We have one account when it will happen, and that is in Revelation 16, when it says in verse 2, the first angel went out and poured out his bowl on the land, and ugly festering sores broke out on the people who had the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. So there's a connection here between the mark of the beast and then worshiping the image. So that could be in combination of the two. That, I don't know how they're going to do it. We don't see that yet. But we can see the first part possibly implementing. Okay, with this vaccination, that we need a forced vaccination. That vaccination will change then and causes actually these boils, because they will change things drastically, with our DNA and even with our cells. And that could, cause the boils that is mentioned in Revelation 16. We also see then at the end, and that is in 20. When we look at 20, we see again that the people who were resurrected in 20 are the ones that were see where it is. There were thrones put up, verse 4 in Revelation 20. And I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge, which are the saints. Okay? They are the saints. They were given authority to judge. Nobody else. It was the saints have authority to judge. And I saw, now if it would have been one, it would be Jesus. But because it says thrones, it is the saints. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony about Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image and had not received its mark on their foreheads or hands. They came alive. Okay? They came alive. Now, if the saints are sitting on the thrones and the saints are raptured before the wrath of God, so before Revelation 16, then these people received the mark during the wrath of God. Now, logically, I can follow that, and I believe that is exactly what is happening. So that first, of course, you know that the rapture is happening, and then the wrath of God, and during that wrath of God, the beast will administer. Now, which beast administers it? The beast out of the earth. The New World Order will administer the mark. Okay? Not the first beast. Okay? And not the whore that is sitting on the first beast. But it is the second beast who will administer it, who will make the image, who will require everybody to bow down to it. Now again, a beast is a political system. What kind of image are they going to make that we have to bow down to and worship and agree with? Okay? That is something you have to be careful with. Okay? Because we are still thinking this person is a religious person that we will bow down and worship. But that may not be the case. It may be a different kind of worship that they're requiring, like just simply agreeing with a political direction. So, anyways, I'm coming to an end, and I hope this is going to help you a little bit more to understand these two beasts and also this mark of the beast that will definitely come or be administered when we are gone. But again, they may push things that you may still have to, I want to say dodge, okay? Because you're going to have to, you may have to have some pressure to, for instance, get vaccinated and bow down to this system. Because that is a bowing down. It is a worshiping of a system. When you give in to their demands, when you know it probably is not right, okay? When you know that the system is trying to control you or your family, you're going to have to stand firm and say, no, I am not going to let you control me, because the only person that I bow down to, the only person that I follow is Jesus. Again, a political system as well. Are you bowing down to a president? That it's the same thing. Hey, think about this and let the Holy Spirit guide you.